What up? Golden Era podcast on YouTube. Player rankings, part 3, tier 3. These are bona fide all-stars, guys that can carry a team in short spurts, but not necessarily all the time. They need somebody else if this team is going to be a contender. Starting 32, Jonathan Malheur. He was previously unranked. 24 points, 9 assists per game. He's good enough to be an all-star, but he's at 32 because he's not quite all the way there. What does he do great? He's a phenomenal scorer. He gets things done when he needs to, and he's a really solid defender, but he operates best when Robert Mack is on the court, and that's why Charlotte last season, when Mack breaks his leg, is done for the year, they just could not ever right the ship. They ended up, I think, with the 9th worst record in the NBA with Malheur as the best player. He gets it done. He can be an efficient scorer. He can do the things that you need to with the basketball, but he needs another guy next to him in order for this team to really blossom into something else. 31 is Jayson Tatum in Orlando. Tatum's been up there. He's been a top 7 guy. He's been tier 1, tier 2, second straight year in tier 3. He's 35, but he still gets it done offensively. He's still a guy, and he's a great two-way forward. He's lost a bit of a step. He got exposed a little bit by a younger Deontay Dixon in last season's NBA Finals, but this is not a wholesale change from what we got from him earlier in his career. He can still be a 24-point-per-game scorer as he was the last couple of years. But the trend is going down because he's 35. At 30 is Tobias Bell, and I think he's probably one of the guys he's the most likely candidate to be criminally underranked because he's now moving to an organization that the ball's going to be in his hands all the time. And as he was splitting playmaking duties a year ago with Indiana, he still averaged 28 points per game, next to C.J. McCoy. Put him on a group with great forwards, Noja Sisnauskas, Michael Chasen. They got a good center in Samaj Bishop. The Thunder are a completely remade team as we enter next season. And Tobias Bell is a phenomenal facilitator, a phenomenal scorer. Where he lacks anything is on the defensive end, but I think they can cover that up with the depth that this roster has. 29 is D'Angelo Ion. He's previously been kind of fringe ranking. There's a lot of frustrations with Ion. He's a great scorer. He's a great downhill threat. Obviously, some of the frustrations is a perception issue when he forces his way from the Clippers to the Lakers in restricted free agency, a bold move at the time. But for Ion, the frustration is he still doesn't have a jumper, and you're asking him to play the 3 next to Cameron Mercer, who also doesn't really have a three-point shot, and next to Amir Roberson now at the center position, who also comes over last season from the Clippers. Ion needs that to make a step, right? He was kind of billed when he got the Clippers to the NBA playoffs, and they lost in the first round to the Warriors. That was the year they acquired Karl Anthony Towns. It was, okay, Ion's next. He hasn't made the next leap. He hasn't really developed the jumper to the point that you would feel comfortable saying, okay, that's the guy that we rely on. Kareem Robinson is the face of the Lakers right now. You could talk about Ion and Mercer because they're homegrown drafted talents. Kareem Robinson is the face of the Lakers. Ion needs to take a step for this team to be a championship contender. 28 is Mateo Delgado. This might be a little underrated based off what he did last season against Phoenix in the opening round for San Antonio, but he has all the pieces. 25 points per game. He's going to get you 6 to 7 rebounds. He's going to get you maybe 3 to 4 assists. You know, as was evident, that when the lights turn on, Delgado is ready to go toe-to-toe, and he went toe-to-toe with the NBA MVP last season. So why is he 28? Because, one, the forward class is really elite in the NBA. I think this is a testament to the depth that this league has right now. But at the same time, he's nearing 30. This is a late-blooming player right now for San Antonio, which kind of caps where their future looks. You can make the comparison to Jason Sanders, who, granted, pushed the Cavs all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals the year before that elite leap that he made, and they won the championship. But what else is Delgado adding at this point in his career? I don't know that there's much there, but everything that he does is an all-star caliber. 27 is Julius Walker. He's kind of had a late season or late career resurrection. He was great early on in his career in Atlanta. He was good in Seattle, good in Boston, good in Las Vegas, but he was never the guy, or he was always being asked to be the guy when he wasn't. Now in Utah, this is a perfect fit for him. He's the second option in terms of like facilitating the offense behind Dixon. Kuksik makes a great pick and roll partner for him. He's still an elite rebounder as he nears 30 and he's at that. He's still a great defender. He's not going to be the overwhelming dominant force that he was when he helped Atlanta win the championship back in 2024, but he's still a guy that you have to respect, or actually summer of 25 for the Hawks, but you have to respect Walker. He's still an all-star caliber. He made All-NBA for a reason in terms of talent level last season. Now, a big part of that was because of the injuries to Robert Mack, to Abiz Ojale, to Xavier Carter not getting that 65-game threshold. Walker's in that tier of guys being capable of that. That's why he's tier 3. 26 is Rashawn Matthews in Brooklyn. We talked about it a little bit on the Louis Morgan segment. When Matthews was the only guy with Memphis Reed, and Memphis Reed isn't even a top 50 guy, when he was the only guy without Brighton Reed and Louis Morgan, he was dominant. He can be an 18-point-per-game scorer. He can be a 15-rebound guy. He was among the league leaders in rebounds last season. He's a phenomenal defensive piece on the inside. When they moved him to the 5, this team got substantially better because that's where he's meant to be. He had a bad shooting season last season, but he's an Al Horford type of player in terms of offensive skill set, but he does it at a peak all Al Horford level, right? Not the tail end of his career in Boston. That's what Matthews does. There's a legitimate case to be made that it's Reed and Matthews, and if you shopped Morgan and got yourself just either some depth or other pieces, that's why the breakup conversations have been there, because Matthews is a respected and talented big man. 25, I've got Cameron Mercer. Why 25? He's really good, man. Cameron Mercer, now entering his 3rd year, is really freaking good. 20 boards, 12 rebounds a game. He's going to get things done on the offensive end. I think he's being misplayed as a 4. He wants to play the 4. He doesn't want to play the center. That's fine, but that's hurting the Lakers because that's where Cameron Mercer, I think, is at his best, is if you let him anchor the paint, 31, 32, 33% from deep, you live with that. And you say, that's good enough for us. Ion needs to make the leap, but for Mercer specifically, talented post player, intelligent defender. Stokes is probably passing him in the power rankings from that draft class. Of course, Mercer went 1, Stokes went 2. I still think Stokes has the higher ceiling, but it's not like it's a bad pick to take Cameron Mercer, who I think is going to be a 7 to 10 time All-Star. 24 is Tyrese Alston in Sacramento. He needed help last season. He still got them to the 7 seed. A year ago, they lost on the road to San Antonio, then they got stunned by New Orleans. Alston, though, I think now is really going to blossom next to Jason Sanders. Why? Alston's a 25-point-per-game scorer, and he's an elite defensive point guard. He is a point-of-attack defender that is probably second only to Dwayne Qualls, maybe third behind Savion White, but he's in that conversation. That's what he gets done. Now he's going to have another scorer on this team that he can facilitate with, that he can create offense for and with and work off of that he did not have last season. RJ Wallace is a negative on off, or not a negative, but he's not a great offensive piece. You look at Parker Pollard. Pollard's a really good defensive player and an offensive piece, but he's not elite. Tyrese Alston can be elite when he's not being inundated with defensive attention. That's going to happen this season. And then 23, we've got Jaylen Green. Green is in the later parts of his career, but he continues to be a really great offensive scorer. He's surprisingly talented as a rebounder at the 2, and he's shown the ability to be an actually pretty talented playmaker for others. That alone is enough to put Jaylen Green into this area. Now, he's an MVP that people continue to want to complain about. He's not an All-NBA guy, but he's good enough season over season to be in the All-Star conversation. That's why he's sitting here at 23. So tier 3, 23 is Jaylen Green, Tyrese Alston at 24, Cameron Mercer at 25, Rashawn Matthews at 26, Julius Walker at 27, Mateo Delgado at 28, 29 is D'Angelo Ion, Tobias Bell is 30, Jayson Tatum is 31, and Jonathan Malhieur is 32. We have a huge tier 2 coming up next, 8 to 22. There's guys you can make the case at the front end should be higher, at the back end should be lower, but that's coming up next. We roll on. NBA season continues to inch day by day closer.